Welcome back to another episode of the Devoted Creatives podcast. Today I'm with Shuo Huang, who is one of the best photographers I've ever known. And you'll hear more about how he got to that point, but I should have to give him his flowers right now. Shuo, for the benefit of our audience watching or listening at home, who are you and what do you do?
Hi guys, my name's Shuo. I'm a part-time photographer / intrepid visual storyteller. I've sort of applied my trade through, various social media, Instagram, but my primary job is actually a media lawyer.
I was waiting for you to drop that because that is quite interesting. I mean, when we met, you were doing law. So where did this all start?
Yeah, we met back in 2005, I think. It's one of my 2006. It's like one of my first jobs after I graduated. And I guess, ever since I was sort of 19, 20, did the sort of rites of passage through Falaraki, Ayia Napa. And then me and my friends, we sort of sat down and we watched The Beach. The one with
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Exactly, that's the one,
Nice.
Danny Boyle's film. And after watching that film, we sort of just looked at each other and said, we need to find our beach. We need to go out and travel for the summer and find our beach. And so we saved money from working in battery factories and in Oxford and saved enough money and just travelled bought a one-way ticket to Bangkok.
Jesus.
Yeah, and travelled for 6 weeks.
Why not?
Yeah, with three of my best mates. Sure enough, we were looking for the beach and we found the beach. And that's what sort of got me the taste for travel. And I guess back then, I was shooting with like one of those compact cameras.
Yeah, pocket camera.
Yeah, exactly, that everyone had back in the day. And, I'll tell you how far back this was. This was when there was still internet cafes around.
Yeah, I remember those.
And we had to use traveller checks.
Jesus.
And...
You're showing your age, mate.
Yeah, exactly. And to make an international phone call, you had to go to like a phone booth.
Yeah.
And pay like this dodgy Thai guy to call home. So it was a different age of travel, and I'm glad I sort of had that phase of travel because it wasn't whether you could like look at TripAdvisor and see what's good. You had to go out and you had to find out what was good and ask fellow travellers and make friends along the way. And sure enough, we found the beach. It was in Malaysia, and
so it wasn't in Thailand.
No, it wasn't. We found a different. Well, my theory was, the beach is just paradise with your friends.
Okay.
It's a concept.
Okay.
It's not actually a physical place. So we found the beach, and it was a hidden beach. It was a place that we got recommended by this Austrian guy, and we found it. And there was no one else on the beach. It was just me and three of my best mates, and we watched the sunset. And the clouds turn purple and pink, and
the sunsets in that part of the world are particularly unique, though.
They are, yeah.
Not seen
I don't know
anything like
why,
it anywhere else.
actually. You're right, and it's like every time you're on a beach, and if it's cloudy day, you're going to be guaranteed a good sunset.
Oh yeah,
and that's what I've learned. So I've been traveling since then, and that was sort of when I was 19, 20, and then didn't really get a taste for photography until probably when we met, really. And I started with a sort of a kit lens with a Canon. I think, what was it? One of the really
30D or 40D.
Yeah, it was one of the really 350D.
Oh, 350D. Yeah.
350D. So one of the real entry level cameras.
18 to 55.
Yeah, 18 to 55, and so I started off with that, and it was taking fairly decent shots, but in those days it was better than the compact cameras, even with the 18 to 55 kit lens. And then after that, what I did after that was I decided to take a career break, and I decided to travel South America.
I actually remember that trip.
Yeah,
Machu Picchu.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that was included. And what happened was I flew into Mexico City and then that's a one-way, and then a flight out of Rio. So I had to figure out how to get from Mexico City to Rio in 3 months.
Nice.
And just figured everything out along the way. And
what was that like? Don't skip over it. That's a pretty epic journey.
Yeah, it was an epic journey. But what I thought was, this is the time that I would take photography a lot more seriously. So I kept the body, but I bought the ultra wide lens. I think it was the was it the 18 mil or something?
Okay.
Yeah, and it was quite, the lens was more expensive than the body. It was a meaty lens, and I bought that for the trip. It excelled, and obviously that excelled my photography massively. So I started off in Mexico just with this one camera in hand, and
one camera, one lens.
Yeah, one camera, one lens, and a cheapo Velbon tripod.
Yeah.
And there you go. I went from started in Mexico, hitchhiked some of the way, and mainly went overground, didn't take any internal flights, and just slowly edged my way towards Rio. Stopping along the ways like Colombia, Chile, Argentina.
And were you shooting the whole way of this journey?
Yeah, shooting the whole way, looking for sites. And then as part of that journey, I thought, okay, let me start this thing called Project World Wonders, okay, where I'll visit every single natural world wonder. There's 7 official natural world wonders and 7 official man-made world wonders, so 14 in total, with the pyramids as an honorary world wonder, so 15 if you want to count the pyramids. So I thought, okay, let me start, because I've already done like 5 here, so let me carry on going. And then so after 3 months traveling in South America, nothing would stop me really, and I just sort of kept on traveling since then.
And so after South America, at what point did you decide, I'm going to invest in a bit more kit and take it a bit more seriously? What was the next step there?
I guess it was when I think I hit you up about a camera recommendation, and I went for the 5D, and that's when I really took it a lot more, took it a step up.
Yeah.
So
I went full frame.
Exactly, I went full frame, and that was, and then I went also with the L series lens, the 22 mil.
Yeah.
Prime lens, and that just shot my photography through the roof. That combination was just, it was just epic. It just gave me really jaw-dropping results. A lot different from what I was getting, with obviously the 350 and the wide-angle lens I was using.
I think you can get a lot more from low light.
Yeah.
More challenging light situations.
So I was doing more sort of astrophotography, like Milky Ways, doing like more star photography. I remember, doing a setup on the side of Mount Kilimanjaro, getting the whole Milky Way in, without even having to stitch a photo together, and, getting all the stars in without much noise. And I've always been a one camera, one lens photographer since you've known me. I rarely have to like get my blower out to get the dust out of the lens, because I never change the lens.
Fair.
That's been really good to me, because it's honed my art and my skill on that lens, and I've managed to be really specialist in using that lens and shooting the stuff that I do. And
so you've traveled South America, you've decided to take on this World Wonders project. Yeah. Where did you go afterwards?
I went everywhere afterwards. It's like, where didn't I go afterwards? Yeah, it was basically whenever I got any annual leave, I just go. Obviously at this point, a lot of people ask me, how'd you get so much leave? Are you a full-time photographer? But no, I was still doing my law stuff. I was still being a lawyer, and also, trying to have a family and obviously with my wife, but also traveling at the same time. And I would just sort of drag them out to like very random countries.
So instead of taking holiday, you were like using it for photography trips?
Yeah, I was always going out. Like, for example, one time I won this trip to Cape Town, photography competition. And
was this the first competition you entered?
Yeah, that was, I think it was probably like the second one with the trip. But usually I've won like money in the monetary prizes before, but this was like the first sort of proper trip that I won. And it was with, I think it was with Gap Year event. No, it was with Home Exchange, sorry, who were sort of like a sort of Airbnb type company. And they sent all of us out to
the whole family.
The whole family out to Cape Town. And I thought, oh, Cape Town, quite near Namibia.
Yeah.
Let me do a little weekend away to Namibia whilst I'm there. So I had 2 weeks in Cape Town, but I thought, let me go to Namibia. It's been, probably one of my top 5 countries that I've been to. And I thought, get me away there, shoot the sand dunes that I've wanted to be shooting for ages.
And what was it about Namibia that drew you there?
Just the remoteness. I think one of the things that attracts me to a particular country is just being in the middle of nowhere and just be humbled by, the earth and the nature around us. So Namibia has infinite sand dunes, and when you're standing there, it feels like you're on set of like Dune, the movie. Yeah, and there's nothing around, just sand dunes upon sand dunes. And there's a famous area to shoot. A lot of photographers go there to shoot. It's called Dedvlier, which is a prehistoric lake, a dried up lake. And you basically stand in the sort of basin and you shoot like the sort of the lake, the dried up lake with the sand dunes at the back and all the dried up acacia trees. It's a beautiful. I mean, I'm sure you'll sort of put a link to that photo. But
of course, I'll share. While we're talking, I'll definitely share some of the links to Shuo's photography. I might even put it on screen if I'm feeling fancy.
Yeah. So it's an amazing country. Really, beautiful people, friendly people, and you can learn a lot about the local tribes out there as well. But yeah, plenty to do.
And so you've mentioned you've done all of this while having a family. Could you just tell people about like that setup, and how does your wife deal with that? Yeah,
this is a good question. I mean, sometimes my wife has wanted to strangle me. A lot of times, like I've taken her on sort of some random journeys. I was like, oh yeah, it's just down the road. We're still in the Jeep 4 hours later. I think there's times when I'm sure she wanted to file for divorce. Yeah, the sort of remoteness that we've been in. But she's put up with a lot, but also, she's kind of looked back on stuff and said, oh, I'm glad we've had that experience.
Yeah.
It might not have been fun at the time, like getting to these really remote locations. Just looking back at Namibia, when we landed in the capital, I had to just get out, rent out a car and drive 4 hours through the desert. And I didn't realize that you really needed a 4x4 for that. And you really needed to have like water provision. I had one bottle of water the whole car. I know, 1-year-old in this car seat at the back. So I was completely unprepared, but, we make things work, and, sometimes they come with me, sometimes they don't. I've just come back from, doing the Everest Base Camp trek, which we've talked about, and, I left them at home because it's just not suitable for families.
So what was the Everest Base Camp trip? Like, what was the journey? How does that work?
Yeah, so,
because you're not climbing Everest, right?
No, you're not climbing. You're going up to base camp, which is 5,400 meters above sea level. The summit of Everest is 8,800, so you can see.
You've done almost half of it.
Yeah, over half. That's right. Yeah, so I could have gone on a bit further, but you do need like sort of about $50,000 just to summit it. So
wow.
And to me, I think it's a little bit of a vanity project. I think there is obviously the risk of you not coming back home, and it's not a risk that I want to really undertake, given that I've got a family at home. Yeah. And it's for me, it's like just waiting in line trying to summit a mountain. It's not really what my aim is. My aim is to shoot Everest. Actually photograph it.
Yeah.
And
so you don't need to go to the top of it.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you're on top of it, how are you going to see it? Right.
Of course.
So so that's why I went, is to shoot Everest. And I said to my wife, I said, look, it's coming up to a milestone birthday. I'm quite young, fit and able, and it's something that I want to do.
This is the right time.
Yeah. So, and then she said, yeah, go for it.
And what does that trek involve?
So it's a 50-kilometer trek from Lukla, which is the entry point to the Himalayas, up to, you start off about 2,500 meters, and then you slowly ebb your way up to sort of 5,000 meters.
And is that for health reasons?
Yeah, so at each 1,000 meter point, you have to acclimatize for a couple of days. And it was an interesting trek. It wasn't that physically taxing, but it was sort of morale sapping. It was like raining every day, and we didn't really get a sight of any of the sort of big mountains till like day 6. So only up until then you were like really, oh, can I do another day of this?
Yeah, because I guess you don't even have anything to look forward to.
Yeah, you don't, exactly.
There's nothing but clouds.
And there's nothing to photograph, right?
Yeah.
So I'm there trying to make the most of it. Get pretty much, if you look at my shots, there's nothing on my SLR until like day 6. Yeah. Right? I've got most of my shots on my iPhone because I couldn't be bothered. Yeah. I was so like low morale, I just couldn't be bothered to get my big camera out. And but yeah, anyway, it paid dividends at the end. When we sort of hiked above the cloud level, it was obviously we had blue sky, but importantly, I think clouds are quite important to a shot. Just digressing here, because they're what adds dramatic shots. They're what makes shot dramatic. Basically,
gives you atmosphere, texture, contrast.
So you can't have. I don't like shooting on a clear day.
Yeah.
On a clear bluebird day, it's just a bit boring for me. Yeah. I need clouds at some sort of level, but not too much. Yeah.
So the rain passing helps.
Yes, exactly.
And the clouds passing helps. So you need some of that there.
And also clouds diffract colour.
True.
And you get really loads of different colours. When you get a cloudy sunset, you get so much different colours, and you get oranges, pinks, purples, and you don't get that if you just have a clear sky. All you do, you see a orb go down. That's it. Yeah,
it's nice.
Yeah.
But not very photographically interesting.
Exactly.
One of the things that seemed to have propelled your passion for photography was those early competition entries.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Could you just talk us through how that went? What was it like entering competitions? What have you noticed seems to be the key to success in that? Because you've won quite a few competitions.
Yeah. Quite a few photography, mainly travel competitions, and they're usually. I find them online. Like there was this like photography competition website that basically, I think it was called Prize Runner or something like that, and it was basically every time a new competition come about, they will notify you. So I'd be going on there, having a look at competition. Obviously, I'm also part of all these like Facebook groups and social media groups for all these travel companies, and they'll promote their photography competitions. But I've got a whole stack of entries, like potential entries to go in, and one of the sort of tests is trying to sort of fit your entry in one of the categories, whether it could be like landscape or cultural, or maybe it could be like world wonders, one of them, and I wouldn't necessarily put a entry through if usually they would have me in. Yeah. Because I like to portray a sense of scale. And I know a lot of photographers, they prefer maybe, to use, a tree or animal.
But I think that is quite a unique signature in your images, because most of your images, like your iconic ones, have Shuo in the scene somewhere, which is quite an interesting, almost like a Where's Wally without a crowd.
Exactly, but I always used to look at these North Face adverts, and it'll be like a random person with a red raincoat on, right, in the foreground, or really small in the background, amongst like this amazing landscape. And I thought, well, why can't I just be that person, right? Whereas I don't want a random person in my photograph. I want something personal. I could say to my kids, look, that's me standing there. Can't you see? Right? So, and also, it also, again, portrays that sense of scale. But I think importantly, it portrays that sense of loneliness, the sense of it's just you and the world. And you're feeling really insignificant. You're feeling really vulnerable. And a lot of the times, the feedback that I get from my shots is that the viewer can feel that. Yeah. And it's evocative.
So you think that's what's been the key to a lot of your success in competitions?
Yeah. It's
because it's unique, or because it's conveying a very clear message?
I think it's not unique, because I think there's other shots, obviously, with random travelers in, but I think when people see me as a photographer and then they see me inside the photo, they can live vicariously, because they know I've been there. It's true. It's real, right? It's tangible. That place is tangible. Rather than, it could just be some stock shot from, Getty or whatever. Yeah.
What is it like shooting yourself in that type of scenario? Because I mean, you're in so many different types of environments. Sometimes the weather's fine. Sometimes it's windy or rainy. What are the challenges like involved with shooting yourself and making sure you get a good exposure?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, John. I mean, one of the questions I get is, who shot this? Right? Who shot this? If you're in the photo, who shot this? So I'll have to explain, okay, look, I set up a tripod, I put it on time lapse, do my settings, put it on time lapse, and it'll be shooting like one shot every 5 seconds, yeah? So then I can make it down to wherever I need to go, do the poses, and it's shooting 20 shots, maybe 30 shots by the time I come back up. And that's, it gives me the opportunity to sort of pick the best shots out of them. And it's worked so well. But prior to the time-lapse app on the Sony A7R3s, I had to do 10 seconds.
Yeah, because you've got to run down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So 10 seconds, run down, pose. I'm not sure if you're happy with it. Then go up, press it again.
Oh, that is a hassle.
It was, there's 10 shots. It could take you like half an hour.
Have you ever been to a location, thought you got the shot and you didn't?
Oh, yeah. Lots of times. Because, like, for example, on low-level shots, maybe I've moved and my head's, like, blurry. And I'm like, oh, it's bad. And to, like, sort of hark back on the sort of weather conditions, yeah. I mean, look, you're at mercy to nature here. So it's something you can't control. the only thing you can do is, the only thing I can do is look at weather maps. I use Photo Pills, which is an amazing app to...
Photo Pills?
Yeah, to...
like PILS?
Yeah, PILLS, which is an amazing app to set up shots. You can put it at the time of day and it will show you where the sun's going to go up, show you where the Milky Way is, show you where the moon is. It's a fantastic app, and I really recommend it. It's quite expensive in relative app terms. I think it's about £8.99, but
it's a one-off payment.
Yeah, it's a one-off payment, so you have to subscribe. But I really recommend it for anyone who wants to do landscape shots. And I remember one time when I was shooting this tiger nest monastery in Bhutan, and it was snowing the whole previous day, white clouds, snow, and I was like, I don't know if I can get the shot. I've got this one time to get this shot because, you know, I was only there for 7 days and we were on a very strict itinerary. So I spoke to the guy and said, look, you know, what's the percentage we'll get some sort of sun tomorrow? He goes, I don't know, maybe 50-50. And I was like...
Literally a coin toss.
Yeah, I was like, I like those odds though. Yeah, they're better than...
You're an optimist.
Yeah. 50% is better than nothing. So I was looking at, in the hotel the night before, I was looking at weather maps and it looked like, oh, okay, this cloud's going to move out of this spot that I needed to be. So sure enough, I said to the guy, look, let's meet at 4 a.m. We'll start trekking up to this mountain at 4 a.m. I don't care. We'll just have to, you know, play it by ear and see if we'll get the shot or not. So come 4 a.m., we start trekking. It's snowing. Bad snow. I thought, you know, just...
You're thinking, this isn't going to work.
This is not going to work. Let's go. Let's keep going. Get to the top, and I can see a bit of light. And that was the first time I saw Tiger Nest Monastery, and it looked amazing because it looked like it came out of Kill Bill. Like, amazing. It was this monastery, it's perched on the side of this cliff, and it's like dusted with snow.
Of course.
It's like the most amazing sight. And I was like, wow, this is actually quite nice still. But then I waited there for about 20 minutes, just waiting for the weather to change. The clouds parted really slowly, and the sun peeped over this cliff edge, and the scene was just like something from a movie. The clouds parted like curtains from one of the greatest shows on earth, right? And I just looked with like gasping, looking for my camera. You know, it's already set up, but you know, I had to obviously keep changing the settings because the lights kept changing, and it was just one of the most unforgettable money shots I've done. So what I'm saying is, like, sometimes you think the weather's not going to be good, but there will be a time when a window comes about, and you just have to be there.
And it might be brief.
It might be brief, exactly. It might be 30 seconds, it might be 30 minutes long. You just have to make sure that you're set up and you're ready to shoot. And it's happened to me so many times when the weather's been rubbish and you've got all hopes gone, but something comes and it'll amaze you.
So have you ever had any completely wasted trips?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, loads of times. Yeah, I mean, one time in Scotland, I was shooting the Old Manor Store, which is quite sort of a unique landmark in the Isle of Skye. And I thought, okay, you know, my lodge was quite near there anyway, so I got the car, went up. It was a bit cloudy, and I thought, you know, it might be decent. Might get a good sunset anyway because we have a bit of cloud. And went there. The conditions just got really bad. It started
like from worse to worse.
Yeah, it started pelting rain really hard, and it was so windy. And I was the only person there on the side of this hill in pitch black. I literally huddled near this rock because the exposure was so much. I was like, and then I saw this cloud coming along, and it was basically going to cover the whole place, like this big foggy cloud. I just ran. I ran down, man. I didn't have one shot on me. I ran away from this cloud.
Retreat.
Yeah. Because I was like, I'm going to get stuck here. I can't see anything.
Yeah.
And that was pretty scary moment. But yeah, it happens a lot. And but you know, look, when you're after the money shot, you have to put it all on the line.
How do you find your locations?
Yeah, I mean,
because some of them are really. I'm like, you've taken pictures of places I've been to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did you know about this place?
That's a good question as well. It takes a lot of research. I think, looking at blogs, photographer blogs, because there are always photographers in every location you go to. You know, it could be some of the remotest part of the places, and there will be photographers there. I mean, it's such a sort of it's such a sort of art that sort of prevails a lot of cultures, and they will have sort of unknown spots and that you can go and shoot, and also I like to shoot stuff that's also well known as well, but in a different way.
Yeah.
So, for example, the places in Namibia, the Bhutan, they've been shot to death. They've had 1 million shots on especially the Tiger Nest Monastery. It's such
so how do you find a unique angle from familiar places?
Yeah, so that one, it was what made that shot was, number one, I was in it, which they're not usually in, because that shot, it's difficult to get a person in, because where you're looking from one cliff edge to another cliff edge. You can't really put yourself in between. So I basically stitched 2 shots together. So I managed to shoot from quite a high angle, shoot the Tiger Nest Monastery, and then tilted my camera down and shot the ledge that I was on. So yeah, then I stitched it to a square. You see, it's Instagram friendly as well, right? Yeah. And that worked out. So that's quite unique in that way. And obviously the weather, you never get a shot of snow on Tiger Nest Monastery as well. So again, that's what made that shot unique. And also, there was no one at sunrise. No one goes there at sunrise for some reason. I don't know why, but they should.
Yeah, they're missing out.
Yeah. And I don't know if you ever seen these like memes on like expectation versus reality. Yeah. So you have like, for example, Santorini. Your expectation is like these whitewashed blue roof buildings and this model, on a roof.
Loads of puffy little boats in the sea.
Yeah. That's a lot of people's expectation. But when you go to Santorini, it's like full of cruise guests, and you can't get around. There's no way at sort of peak times you get shot by yourself. Not a chance in hell in Santorini. So, what I say to people who sort of have that meme is, you have to make your own reality, right? So that involves getting up at stupid o'clock in the morning. That involves getting up at 4 a.m. And making that trek that no one else is prepared to do at that time in the morning, and getting the shot. Because the shot is there. You just have to be there to shoot it. Yeah.
And you mentioned that, you talked about Iceland just before we got onto camera. Places like that are dominated by local photographers. Yeah. So how do you compete with those guys?
Yeah, I mean, look, they've got the benefit of having to go out every single night to maybe shoot the Northern Lights, or shoot with different conditions, and they can shoot during autumn, summer, spring, whenever. And if I go to Iceland, I've only got literally 2 days to shoot. And to differentiate myself, look, I'm going to have a decent shot in Iceland, okay? It might not be as good as your best shot in Iceland, but at least I can offer variety, I might be able to, maybe do the whole of Iceland in a week and offer you a whole portfolio of decent shots. Maybe they're all like 8 out of 10s, right? But maybe you've just got that one 10 out of 10. Yeah. But I've got 20 8 out of 10s I could give you.
So talking about range and variation, you've made some money as a stock photographer as well. Could you talk about some of that experience?
Yeah, so I mean, I think
what stock platform were you using? How did you get started?
Okay, I use Alamy because I thought it's best not to give all my rights to my photography, and they had a rights managed version which I could control where, or I could at least specify where I want the photographs to be published. And they have to buy rights in terms of they have to buy the territory, they have to buy the length, so they don't have it in perpetuity. Yeah. And I thought that was
this is the lawyer in him coming out.
I thought that was the best way for me
protect your rights.
Exactly, to protect my rights. Because if it's stock for it could just go anywhere, and I'll just get like a pound here and there or whatever. So, but stock for Alamy has been pretty good to me. It's been I kind of make maybe about 200 to 300 every sort of 2 or 3 months, which is decent, and it kind of it pays for a couple of flights here and there.
And these images would just be sitting on a hard drive.
Exactly. They'll just be with no exposure, right? So, and I spread myself quite wide on that. So I'll post from everywhere. Like I recently had a sale from Sudan, because no one has it shot in Sudan, and it was the Meroe pyramids in Sudan, and I suppose that's one of my USPs, is that I can offer you shots from all around the world.
How many countries have you been to?
Since last week, 101. Damn. Yeah. So
that's insane.
It's been a journey, man.
So you've seen all of the natural wonders.
Yeah.
All of the man-made wonders.
Exactly.
Were there any that disappointed or that surpassed your expectations?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the ones that disappointed me was probably the Christ the Redeemer in Rio.
Okay.
Because the statue itself is not really that amazing. It's not really awe-inspiring, but I can see why it won. It won because of the actual bay that it's on, which is natural, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's a bit of a cheat.
Yeah, because it's not quite a man-made wonder.
Yeah, exactly. So a whole bay that with
because it is that scene that makes it look so grandiose.
Yeah, exactly. So not the statue itself. So I think that's why it kind of disappointed me a bit. And
also, it's not as big as you think it is.
No, it's not as big. Yeah, exactly. So it's there's loads of other statues that are much bigger around the world that are probably a bit more amazing. And one that probably exceeded my expectations, I'd say, was it's probably that's a good question, actually. I think they all have their sort of nuances of why they're wonders, and some of them is just because they're so old, and for example, like the Colosseum has been around for 2,000 years or something, and the one that exceeded expectations probably I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, John.
I thought when I asked about the disappointing ones, I thought you were going to say the pyramids. Because a lot of people go to the pyramids and they say they're not quite as impressive as they thought they'd be.
Yeah, no.
You didn't feel that way?
I partly agree with that. I think that's down to experience. It's how you experience it. I've been there twice, right? First time, I was definitely disappointed because, it was full of touts and a lot of Egyptians trying to scam you, and you just crawl into this hole in the pyramids and you enter the tomb and it's just a room, an empty room. And so I wasn't that impressed with it. But then the second time I went, which was during lockdown too, I thought, let me try and go about it a different way. So I decided to go one at sunset, and then I hired out just one camel. So I wasn't with anyone else, and I walked over on the camel over behind the pyramids and just waited for the sun just to sort of give it that really nice warm glow. And when I was there looking at that and thinking, wow, I'm on my own. This is probably what, proper Egyptians back in the day when they built this saw, with no city behind it, no Pizza Hut behind it.
Yeah.
And that really gave me the tingles. It was just an amazing sight. And that day I was blessed with probably one of the best sunsets I've ever seen. Even though it was on a slightly cloudy day, but yeah, it was just unforgettable sunset.
If you had to kind of put in order of your experiences, what have been, I guess, your 5 countries that really, really wowed you?
Right. Yeah. Okay. No, this is I get this question a lot, and some people ask it in a different way, like, oh, well, what's your favorite country?
That's impossible to answer. I couldn't pick a favorite country.
No, I couldn't think of this. It's very difficult, and it depends who you went with, your experiences, your mood at the time. But I'd say 5 countries that really stuck out for me. I've mentioned one, which was Namibia, which I've gone through for the reasons why, just for its sort of remoteness, it's the friendly people. 2, Bhutan, just for it's almost like you're walking onto a film set. Like a Kill Bill or some martial arts film, and it's quite sort of almost like a fairy tale. Now the other one is Chile, just because of its sort of Chile is quite a narrow country. It's very long, so it goes through different types of atmospheres. You've got your desert, you've got your lakes, you've got your sort of pine landscapes, then you've got your really cold, stark sort of glacier landscapes as well. So just for its variation. And then you've got Easter Island, which is also part of Chile. And the other one that stuck out with me is Japan.
Interesting.
Just for its how they marry the sort of old cultures and the modern sort of technologies and stuff. And it's just full of, there's so much to do there, so much to do, so much to see. And again, the people are so friendly as well.
So you've managed to, keep almost a semi-professional career going alongside being a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
How do you find balancing those two things? Because you're wearing very different hats, I imagine.
Yeah,
two
yeah. I
roles.
mean, as a lawyer, you're kind of very sedentary. You're sort of always at your desk, typing away, basically paper pushing, and it's very different. I mean, from when I'm a photographer, it's more obviously I'm using more of a creative hat, and a lot of times, obviously you have to be a bit technical about it as well. And I get they are very separate parts of my mind. And I like to keep it separate because, one's work and one's more play, I guess.
But how do your colleagues respond to you? You just got back from Everest.
Yeah.
Most people probably spent the weekend, I don't know, in the countryside.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what happens. And I guess it kind of makes me a bit unique. And, I like that, I've got these interests that are not sort of your typical lawyer interest, like, golfing or going out to the Cotswolds for a spa retreat or whatever, and it's something that's been important in part of my life ever since the beach incident.
Yeah.
And it shapes me as a character. It makes me more adaptable, more resilient, and my wife probably says that I'm too laid back sometimes. Yeah.
Now you have 2 young daughters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You've taken them traveling with you. How many countries have your daughters been to?
Yeah, so my eldest, who's 8, she's been to 32 countries.
That's insane.
Yeah, which is...
That's more than the average adult.
It is, yeah. And her friends at school think she's lying whenever she says that. So I've trained them when they were young. So, I speak to them as like pets almost. But it's from when they were 8 months, we started traveling. Right. And, it's been difficult times. We've had long flights, over 10 hours where you have to keep a 2-year-old entertained. It's not fun, but they've learnt a lot from traveling, and you can see it in their eyes that they enjoy it. I'm not showing them for example, I'm not showing them elephants in captivity. I'm showing them elephants in real life, where they're sat in a jeep looking at elephants, feeding on a tree. Yeah, and you can see that look in their eye. Is something that I envy, that sort of first look, first sort of discovery look. And it's something that I treasure for a long time.
What tips do you have for parents who have small children who want to go out and do the kind of trips that you do? Yeah, look,
I wrote a whole blog on this, so we'll link to that. And I guess it's first of all is being, look, when you travel, there's always going to be problems that pop up, and you have to learn to adapt to those problems and solve those problems on the way. And when you're traveling with children, it's another brain you need to think about.
Yeah.
Another emotion.
Because there's a whole other safety component to that as well.
And there are sort of different ways where you can for example, have night flights and make sure they're sleeping for most of the duration of a night flight. There's loads of, for example, travel buggies that I can recommend. Ways to distract them, like the iPad, organic lollipops for like making their ears pop during the takeoff and landing. There's lots of gadgets that can help you travel with a child. And a lot of people are scared of traveling with children. They opt for the easy option. They will go for the all-inclusive option. But I think sometimes that you just need to sort of take steps. You maybe take a European trip with them, and then gradually get further and further away.
What's the furthest they've been?
Oh, probably. I think we've been to Taiwan, which is quite a long flight. I mean, the jet lag was a killer, man. Like for all of us. They've all been to Japan at least once. I think the other's been there twice. So yeah, pretty far east basically. And the other one is stopovers. Breaking up your journey. So if it's a long flight, sometimes we do a stopover. For example, we did a stopover in Oman on the way to Sri Lanka. So, which is kind of equidistant between London and Sri Lanka. So you can have maybe 6 hours to Oman, have a couple of days.
Half and half.
Yeah, a couple of days in Oman, then you do another 6 hours to South Korea. So, and that would also increase your country count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, clever tip.
Yeah.
Now you've worked with hotels and travel magazines and like the brochures you get on airplanes. How have you connected with those kinds of companies? Have they come to you, or have you actually actively reached out to some of them?
No, it's a very saturated market. This one didn't used to be. When I first started, I used to just hit up hotels and they'll be
this
like,
is before influencers.
Yeah. They used to be like, yeah, come over and shoot at a hotel. We need some shots here. We need some new shots of the lobby. We need new shots of our renovation. It used to be so much easier. I once, when I went to Japan in the second time, all my accommodation was covered by Intercontinental.
Amazing.
Because I reached out to the director of communications there, and he said, look, where are you going to go in Japan? I'll sort it all out for you. Bam, bam, bam.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, oh, great, okay. So that saved me about $3,000 just on accommodation because of how expensive it is in Japan. So it used to be a lot easier. Now it's a saturated market because it's something that a lot of influencers do. So my tag, look, a lot of influencers aren't real. They are photographers, but they're not they're still iPhone photographers, which is fine. Look, I don't have any problems with like shooting with an iPhone. I still do it, and some of my favorite shots are done with an iPhone. But when I'm there, look, I'm saying, look, I can shoot your hotel in a particular style that I've got on my Instagram. It can be sort of family orientated. It can be solo travel orientated. And I give more breadth of work, so I can also offer articles. I call them photo walks, where I sort of
because you write as well.
Yeah, so I can say, okay, let's see what's around your hotel. Let's have a look. What's interesting to photograph? What's interesting for tourists around your hotel? And I'll take photographs of it and do an article for you on that. Okay, I'll do the stories that you want to do, because that's what people are doing nowadays. Of course, that's what hotels want. They want the short stories. They want the videos. But I can also offer drone videos as well. I can, and you have to add these skills to your repertoire to stay competitive. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to give you 20 shots.
Give me a stay.
Yeah. I'm going to give you 20 shots, stills, and you're going to give me free accommodation for that.
Yeah,
it doesn't work anymore. It used to work, but it doesn't work anymore. And
the hustle's got harder.
Yeah, it has. And also, it's easier for these marketing departments to say, look, I don't have to pay you, but I can pay you with accommodation, right? And it's easier for them to get that budget approved because they're not spending anything. Yeah. And then if that room's going to be vacant anyway, they're winning. Yeah.
And I guess for you have the freedom of the fact that it's not your day job.
Yeah.
So you can afford to take a stay over payment.
Yeah.
How have you found integrating video and reels and all of that stuff into your content now as well? Because it must be quite hard because you're already shooting yourself in the stills.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you've got to make content about that as well.
So it just adds another device that I have to basically use. And it's been a learning curve. Obviously I've not been that familiar with videos, maybe 5 years ago when I was just doing stills. And now I find it a bit more comfortable because I can visualize that shot a lot better. Instead of visualizing a still shot, I'm visualizing how that pan is going to go. What the sort of the time that I want to shoot. Maybe I want to shoot a video at one particular hour and then shoot it another time in the day. So it's got me thinking a lot more, especially with sort of the breadth of equipment that I have to think about using. It's annoying because sometimes you take a photo, you want to sit back, you just want to enjoy the scenery. Sometimes you just want to, look at it and admire
with your actual eyes.
Yeah, exactly, and not just be behind a screen all the time. And having all these devices does take away from that. So sometimes I might have to visit somewhere twice, just so one for the content, but two just for my own sake.
I hadn't even considered doing that. And I think it's quite interesting that, like you said, you've got these different requirements now. You want to take a picture, but you also want to sit back and be part of the moment.
Yeah.
I think having to make content about yourself adds another level of complexity to it. Also, with stills, in processing, you've got a raw image.
Yeah.
You can push the saturation. You can play with the contrast in that.
Exactly.
With video, it's not quite as easy.
No, there's no cheating in video.
No.
You have to shoot what's out there, and it's straight out of the camera. I think just, I'm doing more sort of behind the scenes stuff as well now. And
I noticed you've added the kind of vlogging element.
Exactly. I think, and that's important. I think for people to really relate to you and relate to your experiences, I have to be honest and say, look, you know, this place probably isn't that as good as people made it out to be, or yeah, it's amazing. Come out here and do it. And I give a real honest account of how I felt during that moment. And a lot of times when I do meet travelers, they want to just spout out how good it was just because they've made the effort.
You're supposed to.
Yeah, because they've made the effort, they've made the investment of time and money just to get there. And a lot of times they say, look, it's absolutely amazing. You need to go. But
they're not being honest.
They're not being honest, yeah. And I try to be as honest as possible in my experience. And just because also I can sort of say, oh, actually, this place is good, but I know a place that's better, right? And that you have a better time with less tourists. And, you know, and I think that's really important insights.
What countries or cities have you been to that you weren't really expecting much of, but kind of really blew you away?
I'd say, this one was a good example, was Albania.
Okay.
Yeah. Before I went, I had so many people say, look, Albania is really dangerous. Have you not watched Hostel before?
How many times have you heard that?
Yeah, have you not watched Hostel before? Have you not seen Taken?
You're going to be sold off.
Yeah, exactly. And all these Albanian gangster stories. And I got there and I realized it's just such a beautiful country. It's such a hidden gem. And that's how I described it in my Instagram. I said it's such a hidden gem. And when I spoke to this hotel owner, they said, yeah, we have such a bad press.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, from Western media, but also from their government, because their government doesn't push the tourism industry enough.
Interesting.
And try and sway people's opinion about it. So it's you have beaches that are just as nice as the Amalfi Coast in Italy. You have amazing sort of little quaint, cute little towns, UNESCO World Heritage sites. And it's cheap, you can get a pint for £1.
Wow.
Yeah, so
I'm booking now.
Yeah.
Right after this episode.
So I definitely recommend that. Yeah.
Amazing. And what places have you been that you're like, I don't need to go back there? Seen enough.
I'd say it's probably Santorini. Okay. Look, if you look at any Instagram post, you will see Santorini
just over and
over and over again. And look, it is a beautiful spot. And Weir is the real photogenic part of Santorini Island. And luckily, when me and my wife went, we went during lockdown 1, I think, just after lockdown 1. So Greece was probably one of the only countries that just opened up for vaccinated tourists. And so it was really quiet because all the cruise ships were not going anywhere. So usually every day, I was talking to a shop owner in Santorini, and they said, look, every day when the cruise ships used to run, we used to get 1,000 people on these streets, and the streets are narrow. Yeah, they're probably, you can fit like 2 people side by side down these little, small streets. And you can imagine, how are you going to get a shot in that at all, right? Yeah. So when we were there, it's relatively quiet, but I still got up early anyway and got a few shots there. But I can imagine if on peak time, it's just somewhere that you wouldn't really want to, just have that hustle of trying to get that shot. It's just not worth it.
As a landscape photographer, I think a lot of landscape photographers tend to focus a lot on the kit. Mm-hmm. But you have a very different approach. Why is that? And what would you say to people that focus so much on the camera that they're using?
I would say, look, first of all, you're going to go through a number of cameras until you find the one that's right for you, and that's probably going to be a Sony.
Hey.
Yeah, but it's look, that's my favorite camera. I shoot with the Sony A7R3, and it was my second Sony camera because I've had the A7R2 first. Same. But then I had battery anxiety because the battery was so poor on that.
I just had 7 batteries.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. And I carry 2 batteries with me on that. It actually comes with 2 batteries, doesn't it? And it's just amazing. Once they solve the battery issue, I just can't see myself shooting with any other camera. And when I got that camera, I remember I asked you, look, I need a landscape lens. I want to go primes. I want to stick with prime because that's what I had with my Canon. And you recommended the Batis lens, the Zeiss Batis lens, the 25mm, which is 3mm more than the 22 I was shooting at the Canon. So I was thinking, okay, maybe
not quite as wide.
Yeah, is it wide enough for my shots? I was umming and ahhing about it, and I thought, let's go for it, okay. With you, sometimes I don't even bother testing equipment. I just buy it, and it's worked out well for me in the past. And it's an amazing lens. Like I can't speak enough highly of it, because it's been everywhere with me. It's been, to like obviously Everest. It's been to some of the hottest parts of the world. Been to some of the coldest parts of the world. Some of the rainiest parts of the world. It's always been running, and I've not had any trouble with it. But I like to travel as a minimalist photographer. So all I've got in my bag in terms of photography equipment is a GoPro, a tripod, and my A7R3.
Which tripod?
I use the Peak Design tripod. It's the carbon fiber version. Amazing tripod. I used to have one tripod that stuck out my bag.
Yeah.
It really annoyed me because I wanted to close my bag tightly. And then I used to have the Gitzo, and then I swapped that for a Peak Design, which it's stable.
It's insanely compact.
And it's the size of a probably 1 litre bottle of 7-Up or something, and fits really snugly in my bag. And I don't like having to carry a tripod outside my bag too. One, it's a security thing.
You're advertising that you've got
exactly.
camera kit.
Yeah, exactly. An expensive one as well, because they can see the carbon fiber on the tripod. So yeah, I don't like advertising my equipment. I keep it minimal. That's for two reasons. One is because I like to specialize in just one sort of lens or one type of camera. I know how to work it. I know where the sweet spot of the lens is. Without having to think much about it, and I can be very quick. And as a travel photographer, sometimes that's really useful. You can literally just grab it out of your bag, do your settings, and shoot. And yeah, that's invaluable sometimes, especially when you're trying to catch, maybe a sunrise or a sunset, or maybe some animals running around. The other reason is because I trek a lot, so I have to carry it on my back. And if I'm carrying 5 different lenses, I'm not going to be a happy trekker, especially, I'll probably carry about, 11 kilos in my bag at the moment, just with a GoPro and maybe some other layers, and that's it, a bit of food.
That's not that bad.
Yeah, it's not that bad at all. And when I was at Everest Base Camp, I saw this photographer. He had 2 Sony cameras with like huge lenses, and it was all strapped to him. And I was like, how is he going to walk up to the Everest Base Camp in that? I've no idea, but for me, traveling light and swift is key.
I think there's a lot of discipline in that as well. I think it's important to try and hone in on, a set kit that you can use no matter where you are, any conditions. Yeah. There's no questions asked. You know what you can get from that camera and that lens.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Look, there are times when I have to stitch my photos up because I can't get a wide enough shot.
Yeah.
But, it's worked out well. Like I said before, sometimes it turns to a square, which is fine for me. It doesn't always have to be a landscape orientation. And sometimes it makes you think more about the shot, about the composition, because you've only got that one set window, the viewpoint. There's no zooming in, there's no zooming out. You have to be a bit more.
Walk closer.
Yeah, you have to. And you have
leg
to be,
zoom.
Yeah, exactly. And other than that, if there's no leg zoom, you have to be really considerate about your composition, and it makes you think a lot more.
How have you found in these? I mean, you've travelled all over the world. What have the people, like local people's reactions, been to your photography? Because obviously, you've been to places where there's very like extreme poverty. How have you navigated, interacting with people when you're in places like Sudan, for example? Yeah,
I mean, a lot of times, because I don't do people photography. I don't have to ask permission for people to take photographs of them. So that really makes my job a lot easier. So a lot of the times I'm doing landscapes with me in it. So, I don't need a model release from myself. Yeah. But that's been easy. And in terms of like security, I've done a blog on this actually, how to travel safely as a photographer, which gives tips on, people with expensive equipment, how you can sort of, keep yourself a bit more low-key and discreet when you're shooting. But obviously, sometimes that's not the case. Look,
sometimes it's just not possible.
It's not possible, yeah. But because you have to flash your equipment to in order to use it. And a lot of times, that problem doesn't occur for me because I'm up so early. There's no one else around. No, there's going to be no sort of roadmen at like 6 a.m. in the morning. They're all in bed.
Yeah, they're waiting for everyone to come out at night.
Exactly. So I keep myself out of trouble in that way. And whenever I do astrophotography, I'm pretty much going to be in the middle of nowhere as well, because there's too much light pollution elsewhere. So I think I've been lucky in that respect, but I've had no problems. And some of the tips that if you do want to go out shooting, I've a bit tip was put a bit of brown tape around your lens, make it look a bit
bit worn.
a bit worn, a bit old, and also obviously you have just obviously be vigilant.
You've had some trouble traveling with particular pieces of kit, though, haven't you?
With the
your drone.
Oh yes, my drone. That story. Oh, gosh,
what happened with that?
So I wanted to fly a drone in Sudan, but to get to Sudan, I had to drop into Cairo first to get a visa to Sudan. So got my flight into Cairo, scanned my bag out. No one said anything. Had my drone in there. Anyway, got back to Cairo to fly to Sudan, and went through all the security. And they said, "Oh, we've got a problem." I said, "Oh,
as you're leaving?"
Yeah, as I'm leaving the country. I said, "Oh, what's going on?" They said, "What's this?" And they got out the sort of the casing for the drone, unzipped it, and said, "Look, this is a problem, basically." And I said, "Oh, that's strange, because you scanned my bag out and it's fine." And then they basically put me in a detention center in the airport, made me wait for like an hour, and I was like, luckily I got to the airport early for my flight, and I thought, oh, let me do a bit of research on my phone whilst I'm waiting. Looked on the phone, and apparently in Cairo they've got really strict drone laws, and you're potentially you could be fined $10,000.
Oh wow!
For even possessing a drone.
So not flying it, just having a drone. That's insane.
They're quite twitchy on the sort of their sort of military operations over there. And so they asked me questions like, "Did you fly the drone in Cairo?" Luckily, I didn't. Okay? They could even check the memory card that I didn't, because my aim was to fly it in Sudan.
Of course.
And I was thinking, oh, Cairo is a bit built up. I don't really want to fly a drone around the pyramids. So they actually escalated the matter to the airport police. So I went to an investigator.
What on earth?
Yeah, and no one spoke any English. And I had my Google Translate in Arabic. I said, "Is my drone going to get confiscated?" And then I showed it to the security guard, and he basically just nodded. So some guys has got a Christmas present for their son, was a DJI Mavic Air. But luckily, because I didn't fly it, they didn't fine me $10,000.
I mean, that's a win. I can't believe that, though. That is bonkers. Is that the only kind of trouble you've had?
Yeah, so now, every time I look up drone laws in whatever country you want to go to, make sure you look up the drone laws.
Before you even take the drone.
Before you even take the drone.
Yeah, because that's bonkers.
Because in Nepal, you're not allowed to take a drone either.
Okay, interesting.
The helicopters going up and down.
Of course. I mean, there's places where you would expect there to be much stricter drone laws, like Rio.
Yeah.
But you can take drones to Brazil with no problem whatsoever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was your take on Brazil? Because it's quite an interesting place, and you've been there a couple of times now, right?
I've been there once.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, and I mean, look, when I was there, I was a backpacker. I was young, and it's a great party place. There are parts of it that I really want to revisit and visit for the first time as well. For example, have you heard this place called Lençóis Maranhenses?
No.
It's this amazing sort of dunes with like lakes in them.
Oh, I have heard of that. Yeah.
So I really want to go there, and I didn't get a chance to go to when I first went. So I'd like to go back, definitely.
What other places are on your hit list? Given you've been to 101 countries, I'm sure there can't be that many places.
There are a lot. Madagascar is one up there for the baobab trees. I think just because it's such a cool island with like lemurs and it's quite an interesting country. I think Uzbekistan, a lot of the Central Asia countries.
I'd love to go to Kazakhstan actually.
Yeah, Kazakhstan. That's been on my list. Actually, the Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. That was when we were meant to go as a family. Really random, right? Like that's the other thing. Actually, if you go with a family to these random countries, you find that flight prices don't fluctuate because people don't take their families.
There's no half-term issues.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's another advantage. But we were meant to go in April 2020, but you know what happened back then. So unfortunately, I had all these hotels lined up. I was going to work with randomly in Kazakhstan because it's not saturated. Their market there is not saturated. So that's another reason to go to these sort of obscure countries as well.
Okay, well, so for the benefit of everyone who's watching and listening, how can they keep up with you? How can they see your work? What are your links and socials?
Yeah, thanks, John. So you can follow me on Showtography on Instagram. That's SHUO-tography. That's my handle. And also my website is showphotography.com, which has got my portfolios with my hotel portfolios as well as individual country portfolio shots as well.
Is that it? You got a YouTube channel as well, right?
YouTube, I
don't post on there.
I don't post there. Yeah, I need to be honest, I've been trying to post more portrait style, which is why I've not been on YouTube much, because you have to do everything in landscape.
I've been dabbling with shorts on YouTube though. Actually, seems to work quite well. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's like little stabs of stuff, kind of like stories.
Yeah,
but it's quite a fun way to do a little package of places.
But they doing in portrait.
Yeah.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Check out shorts.
Yeah, I will do.
You guys check out shorts as well.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for watching and listening. If you're at home or wherever you are listening, Shuo, thank you for coming in.
No, thank you.
Really appreciate it, man.
It's really fun.
If you have any comments or questions or any feedback for me or Shuo, please put it in the relevant sections. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one.